healthcare settings where there's not a lot of money to buy all these really beautiful pieces of instruments, then you could use the old-fashioned way, which is just simply to look at the organism and try to find their ova. Okay? So let's make a comparison right now. The two most important parts of the protozoan life cycle are what? Of the protozoan, huh? The cyst and the trophozoa. And the most important part of the metazoan life cycle is what? The ova and the adult. Okay? All right, now we're going to skip over and go to talk about the nematodes. So we start talking about the nematodes with, yeah?
Where did you say that we had to review on our...
Trematodes and cestodes. So the flukes and the tapeworms. Okay? So we're going to start with talking about Ascaris lumbricoides. Ascaris lumbricoides is still a problem in the United States, but not a very big problem. But they are problems in other parts of the world. And these things, they get so balled up because there's so many of them in small intestines that they can cause intestinal blockage, which then puts pressure on the intestinal tract and it can perforate the actual intestinal tract, which then causes leakage out of the intestines into the somatic cavity, into the body. And then you can have all kinds of problems with parasitemia, bacteremia, all kinds of different things, right? This is parasites or bacteria that get into the blood. So here you can see there's a bunch of them coming out of the anus, and that's because we can paralyze them by having the patient take an anti-helminthic drug. It paralyzes them and they cannot hold on anymore, so they just simply move down the GI tract and then they get removed through the anus, and so out they come. And so you can see the whole ball of stuff. On my Facebook page for this course, which almost nobody uses anymore because you young people don't like Facebook. You all prefer Instagram and whatever else those things are. You do? Okay. You can. Okay. But there's a bunch of people who used to get on there and just talk about all kinds of things that was helpful, but it's not used very much. But there is a video on there of an 8-year-old young girl who had so much of these worms in her that they had surgery to remove them. And when they open up the abdominal cavity and went in and cut the intestinal tract, they felt around to feel where the worms were, and they cut the intestinal tract, and then they just started pulling worms out. Hundreds of them, just pulling them out. You can go and watch that video if you want, right? But Harlow, you're already making faces, so maybe not you, okay? So,
and where do you find it?
on my Facebook. You can actually find it on YouTube also.
Okay.
Find operation of young girl with Ascaris. Okay? Good? Questions? Okay. The next organism is Necator americanus. Necator americanus is called the hookworm. It belongs to a group of organisms that can really cause infections in us. And the way they typically get into us, as with most of the parasites, is through the fecal-oral route. However, these organisms, the immature form, can actually penetrate the body in the softer tissues of the body. So in our case, it's going to be the areas in between the toes. And so if you grew up country, you might have had your granny or your grandpa tell you, don't go walking around in the field barefooted because these organisms are out there, they can penetrate them. There is a segment of the population that can actually go to other countries and get infected with these organisms, because if you get infected with the worm, the eosinophils go up, and if the eosinophils go up, you don't have allergies. At least that's the hypothesis behind it, right? So lots of people will go get infected with these worms other places and then bring them here and not have allergy problems. At least that's what they think, right? The problem is what? You're infected with the worm. And so these worms are quite destructive. They have teeth. You can see this is a micrograph showing this hookworm attached to the mucosal lining of the stomach. But these particular worms can get anywhere in the body. They can be in the muscle, they can be in the brain, they can be everywhere. If you get them in the intestinal tract, that's better because then you can paralyze them and remove them. But if they're in muscle or in other parts of the body, they're going to be harder to deal with, especially in the brain. Yeah.
How do you know if you have it? Do
You will have,
you feel it?
probably not, but you're gonna have some indication that there's, like, you're gonna have, if they're in the intestinal tract, you're gonna have bouts of diarrhea, right? You might have a little bit of blood coming out of your stool, and blood, when it comes out of the stool, when it's in the upper GI tract and the small intestines, it looks black, right? Doesn't look red. And so if you all of a sudden start seeing what we call tarry stool, black stool, you might want to get checked out. There could be other problems too. You definitely want to get it checked out because I'd rather have this than cancer, right? And so, and remember I told you all that you young people, the rates of colorectal cancer are way high than they have ever been, especially in your age group. So why is it? I think y'all's diet sucks. Are you recording me? Oh my God, I just said a bad word on erase that part. Okay? So it's pretty bad. Any questions about the hookworm? It's not a good worm, it's a bad one. But a worse one is this one. This is Trichinella spiralis. Trichinella spiralis causes a skeletal muscle infection, and you acquire this from eating contaminated meat. So a lot of times it forms a cyst, like a fluid-filled sac inside of the muscle tissue. And so here you can see the striated muscle tissue, and you can see the worm in the actual cyst in the actual muscle tissue. Right? Pork has gotten a really bad rap for this, right? A lot of groups of individuals will not eat pork because, I don't know if you know this, but pigs, hogs will eat anything, including humans. So if they happen to come across a decaying carcass and they're like, man, just food, and they'll eat it. But because of that, they pick up different organisms, right? And one of the organisms they can pick up is Trichinella. Now, this isn't going to really happen in the domestic population of pigs, but it can happen in wildlife. So, if you like to consume wild game, you just have to be sure that you cook the meat all the way through, because if not, you can pick up these organisms. Anybody ever watch Monsters Inside Me? You all just aren't watching the right television shows, right? But Monsters Inside Me are about infectious agents, and there's 3 different case studies in every single episode. And one of them was a case study where there were some hunters that were in Alaska, and they hired a guide to take them around because they wanted to get a caribou. And they were with this guide, and they were camping, and a bear came into their camp and was like causing them danger, and so the guide shot them. And in Alaska, you can take the hide and turn it in, and you get so much money. I don't know why they do that, but they do. But they decided they didn't want the bear meat to go to waste, so what they did was they cut it up, and they cooked it. They had like a big barbecue, and then they invited all of the people in the village to come and partake of this bear, so it didn't go to waste. The problem is they didn't cook it all the way through. And like there were 200 cases or so of Trichinella. It's not a good infectious agent to deal with. It's very painful, right? Because it's a skeletal muscular infection. Any questions about Trichinella?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
What's the question?
Oh, is it only with like animals infected by this parasite, or can just eating any raw like meat cause that?
No. Well, it's mostly going to be in the carnivores, because they're going to eat other animals that have the cyst, and then they're going to get them that way,
Okay.
right? But could it be in omnivores and herbivores? Yeah, because the ova can be released into the environment, and then they can eat those, and they can get those also, right? So any wild, if it's a deer or I don't know, a javelina or a wild hog, a boar, if you're gonna eat any of those things, you should just cook it all the way through. And now I'm making myself hungry by talking about this. So yeah. Anybody have questions? Okay. We're now going to, if you had to get a parasite, Christy, get this one. It's a pinworm. This is Anaerobus vermicularis, right? And probably everybody's had. How many people have had pinworms? Raise your hand. Y'all are all lying to me. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you for being honest.
My sister.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, she blamed it on her sister, right? Yeah. So, yeah, they're very common in kiddos. And if one kiddo in the family, look at you now. She's like, not me, I never got these. But I'm telling you, they're so common, right? And if somebody in the family has them, everybody has to get treated because they're so communicable. And you know how easy it is to get them, Rachel? Just by shaking hands. And then they get on you, and then you eat something and you get them, right? But they're so common, and they don't really cause problems. They cause itchy bum. Are you with me? So the anus gets itchy, and sometimes the little kids are scratching back there, or they're doing this on the, like you think they're dancing, but they're just trying to itch themselves because it's driving them crazy, right? And so that's really common. The worst thing that can happen is a prolapsed rectum. Well, who knows what a prolapsed rectum is?
Oh yeah, where it comes out of the.
Yeah, usually the anus, oh, don't be giving me that face. Usually the anus is an innie like this. When it's so inflamed because of pinworms, it comes out like this, out of the body cavity. And so this is a prolapsed rectum. So you can appreciate, you have the worms on top and it's so inflamed. It's not a hemorrhoid, that's different, right? But this is a prolapsed rectum. And how do you get it back in? You can't just push it in, right? It doesn't work that way. But you have to calm down the inflammation and it will go back to its normal size. Not a good sight at all. Okay? What do you look at me like that for?
So with
You
it
don't
being,
think this is possible? Yeah.
with it being prolapsed, it's more difficult and should probably
You
hold in
can't
your
really
feces, right?
sit, you can't sit down very well.
Right. Does
Yeah.
poop just come out then? Because since it's prolapsed,
It'll
you
come
don't.
out, but it's going to not feel very good, you know. Yeah, so it's hugely inflamed. Okay. Questions. Now, this is an infestation more than it is an infection because it's in the lower part of the GI tract. So the organisms are kind of around the descending part of the colon, and then the female, usually a child, when the child is at rest, the female will come out of the anus and lay her eggs, and then she'll go back in. Sometimes she gets lost and crawls down the leg, right? And so, yeah, I've had friends, we were camping one time, she goes, there's something crawling on me. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, no, it's just a pinworm. And then she starts crying. I'm like, no, it's common. I said, by the way, you need to sleep over there in the car, not with us. We don't want you near us. We don't want to get it. But we were all kind of exposed to it already because of the ova, right? The ova easily transmitted. Right? But in the old days, and you can still do this now, if you thought that your child had pinworms, you wait for them to go to sleep, Rachel. And do this to your own kid because it's hard to explain what's going on if you're doing it to somebody else's kid. But if you do it to your own kid, you wait for them to go to sleep, then you get ready, you take a microscope slide and some scotch tape or some tape that's transparent so you can see through it. And then you go into the room, turn the lights on, pull the kid around, and they're like, what the hell's going on? And then you pull down their undies, you spread their cheeks, and you look at the anus, and you might see the female come out. If you don't see the female come out, you take a little piece of that tape and you press it. At this point, the kid's like, what the hell? But you press the tape to the anus itself, then you take that tape and you put it on the microscope slide, and then you give it to somebody like me, and we can tell like that whether or not they have pinworms or not. Right?
Wait, how do you get them?
How do you get them? Or you have two kids playing, and then one of them has got it, and they're like doing that, and they touch the toy, and then they stick it in their mouth, and then they give it to little Lisette. Little Lisette takes it and touches it, and then eats some candy. You know, it's that easy. Or here's the worst part: the little kid has got pinworms, and you ask them, hey, can you wash the dishes? And I don't know if you've ever asked a little kid to wash dishes. They don't do a good job, right? So they're washing the dishes, but all of a sudden they're like contaminating the plates, and all the plates are contaminated, and then you eat food off the plate, and guess what? You get pinworms. That's how easy it is. Now, I am a big proponent for kids to be messing around in nature and playing around and wrestling and giving each other like wedgies, everything they do, right? I want all those kids to have that kind of experience, right? But that also makes them come in contact with nature and makes them come in contact with other kids. And I know your kid is not, but all the other kids are dirty, right? And I'm not talking about dirty, unhygienic, I'm just talking dirty kids. That's just the way they are, right? You know, my sister made the best mud pies ever, and then we would use them and throw them at each other. But one time she confused mud and poop, and so we had poop pies, and then we were throwing those at each other. That was not a good thing, right? But everything smelled bad, you know, so we had no idea, we were just kids, right? And so it's pretty interesting at the time. Questions? Don't tell my sister I told you that story. It's gonna be on YouTube. Complicated life cycle. This is Dirofilaria immitis. Dirofilaria immitis is the heartworm. And so this is the one that's gonna affect dogs. I put it in here because a lot of us love dogs, right? We are too vascular, so we're not gonna really get this problem, but the dogs will. And so you wanna be sure that you control the vectors that are gonna deliver it to the dog fleas mostly. And so what you should do every month is treat your dog. If you got a big dog, right, 30 plus pounds, you can use the stuff that goes on the back, right? And that'll treat them for heartworms, plus also it's an anti-arthropod, so the fleas will stay away, the ticks will stay away, those things, right? If you have a little dog, like less than 20 pounds, I don't recommend doing this stuff on the back, because if you read the actual label, it will say can cause tremors or neurological disorders, and sometimes they will tremble and forever. I mean, it's really dangerous for them. But the pill that has the same medication, if you put that in, it doesn't have the same effect. So that's what I do. Right? Now, I'm not going to tell you which particular medication that caused my Peppy to have problems, because I'm being recorded and I don't want to be sued. No, it's okay, I'm just not going to say it. But I think you should kind of look at if you're going to do this with your dog, you should read the label before you do it. Okay? I don't really like the back stuff at all. So we have cats now. And my wife bought the stuff for the cat. I checked the cats. They don't have fleas. Let's hold off on doing that because I don't want to get them in trouble.
Why did you say we can't do this?
Oh, we're too our blood system, the way our blood, it doesn't work for. They won't live in a heart. It's too vascular.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can it affect like other animals like cats? Or is it
I am not aware of it causing troubles in cats. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying I'm not aware. I don't know that has happened. I probably should look that up because now I have 2 cats.
I have cats too.
So, and one of the cats likes me, so it follows me all over the place. And like last Friday, I let the cat out because it wanted to go out, and it didn't come back for 5 hours. And it was night, and I was worried about the cat. I kept looking for him with a flashlight, looking. He wouldn't show me where it was. Who knows where he went? But he came back later, like he looked like he was all beat up, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened to this cat? He was wet. I'm like, what happened? So I don't know what happened, but what I can tell you is that cat got into some trouble, and I don't know what it was. He was perfectly normal, just tired. So and you know he's been neutered, so he can't do that kind of stuff anymore, right? So although he is a male, and so but I don't know. But he came back kind of all beat up and like, okay, Juice, what happened? They can't tell you. He just went and laid down and fell asleep. So I guess he had a good time. I don't know. My wife said, "Don't worry. He's a cat, and they like the nightlife. There's coyotes out there. There's rattlesnakes. There's all kinds of crazy things. There's other big dogs down the street. I mean, where do you go? I don't know. So, but he came back, right? And now when the clock hits 3 o'clock, he can no longer go out because he might be gone forever. And so I just found out. So now we're going to talk about the exoparasites. Any questions about the nematodes that we covered? We're going to talk about the exoparasites. And the exoparasites, to me, are more nuisance than they are true parasites. They're more important as vectors, as organisms that can transmit an infectious agent from one organism to another, than they are as parasites. Now, I'm not saying they're not parasites. But what I'm saying is, to me, they're not as big a problem as the ones that are inside of the body, okay? So the two particular groups of organisms that we're interested are the insects, which have 6 legs, and the arachnida, which have 8 legs. And so let's talk about them. The most common of all is this cute little dude right here. This is the body louse. Now look at this thing, right? This is a micrograph, but this is what he looks like. And so you can see he's got a little hook right here. Are you with me? And these guys are adapted to the body hair, except they're not going to infect the eyebrow or the eyelash or the pubic region, because that hair has a different morphological structure. All the body hair, the head and the arms or whatever, are cylindrical, right? So if you were to cut them, they're perfectly round. And therefore, this little hook can hold on very nicely. And so they hold on. A lot of times you see them crawling around on the head and things like that. And you're like, oh my God. It's not a problem. You can treat it with Lindane. It goes under kind of some brand names as Rid-X or Lysex or things like that. They're over the counter. You can buy them. You can treat them. But when you go in there, you have to remove the adults. And the adults, that's how big they are. You can see them and they jump. So they're on your hand, and you can see them crawling around. You can see them crawling around on the head, right? But you have to remove them, and then you have to go over and get the nits. And I don't have a good picture of a nit, but it's the egg. And these guys, if this is the hair stalk, when they lay their eggs, they will attach an adhesive to it, and they'll put the actual egg attached to the hair. They're big enough you can see them with the naked eye. They show up much better on somebody who's got darker hair than somebody who's got blonde hair. Those are harder to find. But you can see them. Look at Harlan, thank God I'm blonde. Okay. So, but if you've got darker hair, you can see them because they're bright white, you know, and so it's pretty interesting to think about. This is the inspiration for the game Cootie. Are you with me? To me, it was also the inspiration, look at it, for the movie Alien. It looks just like that, except it's got really sharp teeth. Aliens got sharp teeth, these guys don't. And the teeth go out of the body and they bite things, right? But I think this was the inspiration for the alien, right? It's pretty cool. And then the other thing, in the Latino world, they're called piojos. And if you have piojos, you're ostracized immediately, right? I had a friend who had lice when we were little kids. And she had, like, from then on, all the way through high school, she was known as pioja, right? Because she had these lice. And unfortunately, you know, people were mean to her. I kept telling people, everybody gets them. Because in my day, certain times of the year, they would line you up and you would walk into the gym and there would be a nurse and an epidemiologist, and the epidemiologist taking notes, but the nurse is kind of looking through the hair and saying, you're okay. And then if they found somebody, they're like, the walk of shame, and they, okay, go with this person over here. And they would take you and they would say, oh, they got piojos, oh my God. And so you would think, oh my God, but you know, nowadays they don't do that. If they find lice in somebody who's in school, they very quietly remove them and then they sit in the principal's office until the mom or the dad can come pick them up. It's no longer like, get out, right? It's much more, they don't want to embarrass anybody, I get it, right? But it's really, oh, by the way, my friend ended up being a very beautiful young lady, and then everybody wanted to date her in high school, but she remembered how mean people were, so she would not date them at all, right? I mean, so, revenge of the beauty, right? So it's pretty interesting. Now, remember, these have hooks, right? Its cousin, the crab louse, has a claw. And the reason it has a claw, Christy, is because the pubic hair, the brow, or the eyelash, the morphology of those hair are more oval in design. So if you were to cut it and look at it, it would be more oval design. A little hook could not hold on, but a claw can because it can just attach to it and hold on, right? This is, or was, or is maybe still now, considered a sexually transmitted infestation, not an infection, they're on the outside. But, well, hello, Bray. But you can pick it up lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be sexual. Right? You can pick it up from sharing clothes and things like that. But it's really interesting. We were worried, I was worried that the crab louse was going to become extinct because, people are escaping their areas, you know what I'm talking about? They're, I don't know, making it all cute down there. You know what I'm talking about? And so because of that, they were removing a lot of the places where these things would exist. However, there was a paper written, Jeanette, that said, don't worry, the crab louse is not going to go extinct because they found a new home. They started to find them on the eyebrow and on the eyelash. And so that's pretty interesting because the hair are very similar. I'll let you decide how they might have got there, right? But it's not hard to discern how that might have happened. Okay? So if you think about them, if you compare them, the body louse has a hook, the crab louse has got a claw, and all you need is a little love to pick them up from somebody else. Okay? Questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
I apologize. Okay, so it says it's a very common STD, but do they cause like diseases besides carrying them?
I am not aware of any true disease that they cause,
Okay.
but the fact that you have them would be enough to scare a lot of people. Because I tell you right now, if you got up, or somebody got up and said, I want y'all to know that I have crab lice, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to go out of the room or go to that side of the room and you're going to be there all by yourself. Maybe that's a good thing during the test. I got crap, everybody moves over there and you're all by yourself. So that might be a good thing. But it's kind of fun to think about how all these things have evolved, right? To only certain parts of the body. That's pretty cool. Because if the crab louse gets on the head, it's just going to slide away and it's not going to be a problem, right? And so that's pretty cool to think about. These are bed bugs. Bed bugs are a problem in Austin. In certain parts of Austin, not all parts. But bed bugs, this is what they look like. They look like a roach to a lot of people, and people think they have roaches. No, you have bed bugs. And the actual genus is Sinex, right? It's spelled like that, right? And they can be prolific, right? And if your neighbor has them, you have them also. If you live in an apartment, if you live in a house that's a mile away from another house, probably not, right? But they are the great stowaways. They're known to get into backpacks and purses and all kinds of different things. There was a famous store in Central Park in New York that was selling stuff, and people would buy the stuff because they said that they would go there and take a picture outside by the sign or whatever, the way tourists are, and then they took them back home to California or wherever, and then they had bed bugs. Well, bed bugs are interesting because they're kind of on the fringes of being a true parasite. They are a parasite, but the definition of parasite, it lives with the host, and this is on the fringe because they don't live with you, they live in the environment. So they're living in the bed, and then when you're asleep at night and you're releasing CO2, that's what attracts them. They're attracted to the CO2, they sense it, they're like lunch, and then they come out where they are, and they will always kind of follow, they follow a scent, and so they're gonna follow the same little trail, kind of like the ants do when they're kind of running around in the yard and you can see the little trail. The bed bugs in the trail also, but it's because of the dirt and the grease that they pick up. You can see how they've gotten onto the bed. And the thing about bed bugs, right, if you wake up in the morning and you have a bunch of welts like this, it was not one hungry mosquito. A mosquito will take a blood meal and then leave you alone. A bed bug doesn't know when to stop. And it'll bite you, and it'll feed, and it'll bite you again, and it'll feed again. It'll get so engorged that it can no longer hold on, so it falls on the bed. And then it's like, I can't move. And so the only way it can move is to regurgitate, and it regurgitates blood until it can move, and then it leaves. So a lot of times you'll find these blood spatterings on the bed sheets, and that's another indication. Plus all these welts on your body, indication that you have bed bugs.
Isn't it, but it's more or less, I mean, yes, you can pick them up if you go somewhere and, but it's also, when you said they're attracted to their environment, it's also based upon like hygiene, right? Like, no? Okay,
You can be the cleanest person in the world and get bed bugs.
really?
Oh.
See, I was told, I always thought, so that was a misconception then, okay.
And I did hear that, like the Great Wolf Lodge, like their brims have.
I don't even know what is the great,
It's in
don't say that
grapevines.
word out loud. So, it's some kind of lodge, we don't know what you mean.
It's like it's a water park.
Okay, fine, but, okay.
Yeah.
So, it's been known to happen in lots of places. I'll tell you a story. One of my students from several years back, she was very nice, and she called me and said, Praveen, you told me about this, something kind of soil that I could put around my apartment. I have a big roach problem, and my landlord won't do anything about it. I'm like, oh, okay, can you come help me? So I bought a bag of diatomaceous earth, I went over there, and I asked her, I said, show me where the roaches are. She said, they're all over, they were crawling around in the lights, they were coming out of the light plate, they were coming out of the baseboards, they were everywhere. And I picked one, I looked, and I said, these aren't roaches, these are bed bugs.
I know you jumped out.
So what did you do,
No,
take
I did
all
not.
your clothes off as soon as you got to the house?
No.
Not there, it hurt, no, when you got
No.
home.
But what I said is, you need to leave right now. I said, this entire apartment is infested with bed bugs. She said, well, I've been telling my landlord for a long time that I had a problem, but they won't do anything about it. I said, let's go. You need to move. So she said, well, I have $400 deposit. I said, I wrote a letter to him, signed it, certified microbiologist. I wouldn't do that now because I'd probably get into trouble with ACC. But and then he gave her back the money because I told him I was going to report him to the health department. We still reported him to the health department. But the problem with bed bugs is if you have them in your house, your neighbors are going to get them because they're going to go underneath the baseboards and they're going to go into the next apartment and then you're going to get them there. And there are certain places in Austin that have bed bug problems and they're notorious. And you can't, it's hard to get rid of. You can't just spray, you just can't spray a little Raid and kill it, because there's a bunch of others.
You have to fumigate, right?
No, that's not gonna kill them all. The only way to get rid of them is to close up your house or your apartment and turn the heat on. You're gonna have to have space heaters on also. So it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit in that apartment or that house for 6 hours. That will kill them. However, everything that is plastic in your house will melt. It'll warp. So if you have a favorite Lady Gaga album, you better take it out of there because it's gonna melt. Are you with me? But that's the only true way to get rid of bed bugs. Yep.
How do you prevent them?
Yeah, I know she's getting itchy already. Just try to be aware of where you are, and try not to bring them home.
Well,
Like there's-
shoot, go ahead and spill the tea of the places in Austin.
Yeah.
I feel like you already know.
Yeah. So you just gotta be real careful because they are the great stowaways. They'll crawl into your purse or whatever. So if you're going to a place that you don't know very well about, leave the articles in your car and just take what you need to go to that place wherever you're going, right? They're not gonna be at Starbucks. Are you with me? Yeah. But maybe in other places that you might visit. I don't know where. But, okay? Good?
How big are they?
You can see that. Do I have any? No. Somebody.
I hope not, yeah.
No, I collect things and I put them I put them on collection,
I
right?
think I'll put all my articles in my
So,
car.
but if you do find bed bugs, I need a couple for my collection so that I can show people. They're really about 8 big. You can see them with the naked eye. Yeah. Okay.
We're all gonna be looking at each other.
All right, now we're gonna go to the arachnida.
You have a mark on you.
These are y'all are squeamish. These are the organisms that have 4 legs, and probably the more important organism in here is the tick. So the tick, this is its proboscis. This is reticulated, right? And so you can see that once it gets in, it's hard to get out because it's got all these little kind of spines that are holding it in place, right? The only way to remove a tick is how?
Squeezing?
Not
burn
squeeze it.
Burn it, right?
Do not burn it. The only way is to pull it out.
Oh.
If you pierce it, burn it, squeeze it, some people put Vaseline on top to suffocate it. It will suffocate it.
But you gotta get the head out though in order.
Hold on. If you do any of those things, they're going to regurgitate, and whatever is in them is going to be put into your body. And if they're carrying babesia or they're carrying limes, you're going to have that in your body. The only way to do it is to take a pair of tweezers and go in where it's attached to the skin, and then just pull up. And you're going to have to use a little force. Don't pluck it, because if you leave the proboscis inside, it's going to cause all kinds of problems. But you want to pull it very gently until it just will release. And then that's the only way. And then you kill it. Okay? If you do anything else, then it's not good. I was at Buc-ee's the other day, last week, and they have a little device that looks like a little, and it's got a little hook in it, and you hook the actual tick and you pull up on it, and it comes right out. It works beautifully, except they want it $15 for it. You can buy 10 of them for about $8 at Amazon. So maybe one of y'all can buy some at Amazon and give everybody a little going away gift from your cohort. I don't know. A good way to remove a tick, right? If they're interested. They're soft bodied, so you can see this poor animal has got a bunch of them on there, right? But they can also be hard bodied tick. There's a hard bodied tick right there. That's Amblyoma, right? Americanus, which is the Lone Star tick, because guess what? It's from Texas, right? And it carries babesia. The one that carries Lyme disease is not as prevalent unless there are a lot of pine trees, usually to be East Texas, and that's Exodes, and it carries Lyme. Okay? We have Lyme disease in Austin, but not as much. Okay?
Ticks cause Lyme disease?
Oh yeah.
Lyme disease. Now, they don't cause Lyme disease, but they carry the bacterium that's Borrelia burgdorferi that causes Lyme disease. Do you want me to spell that name for you?
No.
Okay.
Do we need to know?
At some point you will, but not right now.
Is there a name for ticks? Oh, sorry.
Is there what?
What is the name for ticks?
What do you mean?
Like their
Their genus? So the Lone Star tick is called Amblyoma. Let's
didn't see
do I
it.
have the name in it? Here we go. No, I don't have the name. You want me to spell it?
yes.
Amblyoma. That's the Lone Star tick, and then Exodes is the black leg tick, which is the one that carries Lyme disease.
Wait, how do you spell that second one?
IOXODES. Exodes. Okay. I guess you want me to test you over the genus on that. Hard. You can't say no all by yourself back in the back.
You said IOXODUS?
Exodes. IOXODES.
DES, okay.
It looks like an Exodes, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not Exodex. Okay, so here you can see them attached to this animal. Here you can see it attached to a human. That's it right there.
Where?
Right there. You see that little thing right there? But the immunological response is all the reddening, right? We call that erythema, and the swelling is called edema. And so this is the immunological response against the saliva and the anticoagulant that the tick actually injects in you, just a little bit. That's enough to have this huge immunological response. Dr. John, my buddy, who teaches the other microbe, he got bit by what he says was a spider. I think it was a vespid. So he was changing out the bird feeder at night. I'm like, Dr. John, why do you want to change a bird feeder at night when you can't see anything? But he got stung, bit by something. And he had a huge immunological response. You can ask him to show it to me. He's proud of it. He's like, look at this thing. Because that's the way scientists are. Like, oh, look what's happening. It's turning all red. And you're like, oh my God. And so, but he's like, at my age, I'm just glad my immune system is working. Right? So that's amazing. That's an amazing thing to think about. Right? So let's go now. If you weren't itchy before, you will get itchy. Look, she's itchy. These are scabies. These are Sarcoptes scabii. These are mites. And the interesting thing about this is they're worse than bed bugs. Where bed bugs you thought were bad, these particular mites will actually burrow underneath the skin and lay their eggs, and then they'll come back out and they'll feed on the oils and the blood of the body that they can bite into, and then also the exfoliated skin that you have on your body. Because you're just nothing more than, you're a slougher. Are you with me? You just slough all the time. And so you stop itching. And you're gonna be giving off all these different particles, these pieces of skin, all kinds of things like that. And so I told you about your bed sheets, right? So if you want to see yourself from a cellular perspective or a molecular perspective, when you get up out of bed and the light's coming in perfect from outside, you can see all these little sparkly things in the air. That's you. And if you want to make it worse, just get up out of your bed and shake your bed sheets, and there'll be a bunch more particles that get released. That's why we just fool mites, right? And so the mites that we have are demosins. They're like eye mites and things like that. Most everybody has a few. You can't see them; they're little tiny dudes. But they're all over your house. Dust mites. You've heard of dust mites, right? They're all over the house, right? And then you have these guys, which are worse. These things they're hard to get rid of. You would treat them like you would lice with lindane, but then you have to be sure that there are no more there, right? And so they're very hard to get rid of. I've had to deal with them twice in my career. When I was working for a physician, we had somebody come in with scabies, and the first person who came in had the worst case I'd ever seen in my life. They had little lesions all over the body, and so we gave him a special soap to take a shower with so that it would remove them. And he took a shower in our facility. And then I took his clothes and I said, put them in this bag. The bag was a biohazard bag, and I stapled it shut. And then I autoclaved it to kill him. And then I gave him some of my scrubs. And I said, you can have those. So we had him in the room, but he left. And he just left. And he left his clothes behind. And one of my colleagues said, what are you going to do with those? I'm like, I'm going to throw these things away. They were autoclaved already, so they weren't going to hurt anybody, but what are you going to do with them? Just throw them away, right? So I put them in another bag and then threw them in the regular trash. Because it's kind of scary to have a biohazard bag in the regular trash, are you with me? But it was just clothes. And so it's important. It's hard to not talk about the chigger if you're from Texas.
My grandpa would get them all the time when he would mow in the tall
All
grass.
the time.
Yeah.
So right now, the spring is one of their most active times, and right now they're found in the Bermuda grass. They love Bermuda grass. So if you have Bermuda, I don't know why people plant that stuff.
I love that grass. It's so pretty and fluffy.
That's why people plant that stuff.
Mhm.
It's a non-native, and it spreads everywhere.
That's the grass I'm thinking.
Don't do it. Get buffalo grass. But what happens there is they love it, and so if you're going to walk around the Bermuda, you're going to get chiggers. Right? In the spring. In the summer, it gets too hot, so they're not around. They go dormant, and then in the fall, they're in the leaf litter, right? And so if you're like raking leaves or whatever, and then you like catch them and you put them somewhere, you're going to get them on. Right? So my dog, when she was alive, Bandy, she was my little pitty. She would sit there very calmly until I got a big old stack of leaves. And then she would run as fast as she could, and she'd jump in it and play around in it, and it was just crazy. Well, she got chiggers a couple of times because of that. We are not good hosts for chiggers. So they will bite you, they'll try to hold on to you, but the first time you take a shower, the amphipathic mechanism of the soap, they'll come right off. And then but you'll still have the bites and the itchiness, because when they bite you, they release a little bit of chemicals in their saliva that are very itchy to us. And so we'll be itchy for a little while. They're called red bug because they are actually red, and so sometimes you can see them crawling around. And they're tiny enough but you can see them move with the chicken. And then the other thing is they call them red bug because the little bite they produce looks red. How many people got chiggers? I get them all the time. And I wish I didn't. I'm like, I'll look at it, I'm like, if I go in there, I'm gonna get chiggers. But then I go in there anyway, and so, yes. And they like to hang out where the clothes meet the skin, right? So around your sock line or where your undies are, they hang out around there. Bras, they like bras, or the area around the bras for some reason. So you can actually see the pattern of these organisms. And here's the bite. This one was just, they just got a bunch of happy ones. They got all over the place, right? This is pretty interesting. This is a cicero, and this is the way that they stick this stylosome inside of the body. It's pretty long, right? You can see it right there.
How big are they?
How big are they?
Mm-hmm.
About 2 millimeters in size. They're pretty small. Okay. You can see them with the naked eye.
Okay.
I don't have any triggers. Anybody gets any, let me know. I need a couple for my collection. I don't want them alive. I'll take them.
Do you like pin them to a board?
No. I'm a little vials.
If you wore like off or any type of spray,
Yeah.
can that prevent?
DEET, so DEET is what off is. It works really great against them. So what I usually do when I'm working around where I know triggers are is I will take my pants and I will stick my pants inside my socks, and then I'll spray everything like this all the way down with DEET, right, to try to not get them. Okay. So now we talk about the insects and the arachnids as vectors because they're more important to me this way than they are as true parasites. To me, these things are a nuisance more than they are dangerous to us, except the mosquito. To me, the mosquito is the most dangerous organism on this planet. And so we're going to talk about why. So here you can see the human louse. In the United States, not a problem as a vector, but in other countries, they can transmit scrub typhus or typhus, right? It used to be that they used to call gel fever was an infection that was actually transmitted by lice, but it was typhus, right? And so, but we don't see it here, other countries see it, right? The flea is really important because of bubonic and septicemic plague, but we don't see very many of those cases anymore. Mostly because we have the flea population under control. The flea is the vector for the actual plague itself. Right?
For what?
For plague. And the plague's name, do you want to know it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool name. I'll write it for you. It's Yersinia pestis. That's the bacterium that causes bubonic and septicemic and pneumonic plague. It is a cousin to E. coli. It belongs in the same family. It belongs in the Enterobacteriaceae. Isn't that interesting? But its mechanism of infection is way different. It's mostly going to cause infection of the lymph and the blood. And the lungs also, but mostly. The lungs are the way it can spread very easily. Okay. We have about 2 or 3 cases of plague in Texas every year. And it's usually west of I-35. The closest city that we've had one is Wimberley. That's the closest we've had one. Okay. Wimberley's still a cool place to go to. We just had one case, and who knows how they died, right? That's really interesting. Anybody watch The Best Medicine, the show The Best Medicine? So there was an episode where there were people who were selling exotic animals, and they were in a little town, and they had like some kind of special fox, and the fox had all these fleas, and the fleas had plague in it. So like half the town came down with plague, right? And so that was just this Tuesday night. You don't watch TV much, right? Well, I'm great and I'm watching TV. I'm like, oh my God, that's pretty cool. So they always talk about some of these things, and so it's pretty interesting to think about. This is the deer fly, and it transmits tularemia, Francisella tularensis. That bug is worse than the plague. So I'd rather have the plague than tularemia. Okay? And then you have the kissing bug, and we talked about it, right? And so it transmits what? Chagas disease.
Shaka?
Chagas, which is Trypanosoma cruzi. Okay? So if we then think about the types of vectors, we have mechanical vectors. Let's talk about them first. These are organisms that can land on something that's contaminated, so poop, and then they can take that and land on something else and then transmit an infectious agent that way. That's usually going to be GI, that's going to be salmonella or something like that. And so let's just say that you're out at a picnic or in your house, and then the flies landed on poop outside, and then they come in the house or land on your sandwich and they deposit the organism there, and then you eat and you have enough of the organism, you can get an infection that way. And that would be idiopathic, right? And so that's a really good term. The term idiopathic.
A disease for which no cause is known.
When it is idiopathic, what does that mean?
A disease for which no cause is known.
We don't know why you have it, but you have it. But just like, oh my God. Yeah. Usually epidemiologists, if there's only one case, it's sporadic and Marissa, take care of yourself. But if we had like 8 of you all come down with the same infectious agent, there's some kind of pattern going on. All diseases, whether they're infectious or non-infectious, follow a pattern. And if we can understand the pattern, we can intervene and stop it. And so that's really interesting to think about, which brings up the idea, epidemiologically, what is the big epidemic that's going on in your age group? Colorectal cancer. And one point for everybody, because I know Lisa made me happy today. So who's keeping count? Are you keeping count? Okay, Nick is keeping count. Okay, good. So why is that? Why are the young people under 40 having more cases of colorectal cancer?
Because our diet sucks.
Huh?
Because our diet
I
sucks.
think it's diet. That's hypothetical.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure, because people are studying it now, but it might be 10 years before we figure it out. But meanwhile, y'all should not be eating so many processed foods. What's the biggest draw for you all? Huh? Chips. And the other thing is what? Energy drinks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So maybe you should cut back on chips and energy drinks. Now, I'm not naming any energy drink or any chip specifically. I'm just saying that maybe you should reflect on what you're eating. And instead of eating a lot of chips, you might eat broccoli or raw. Broccoli or spinach or some other cruciferous cauliflower.
Mm-hmm.
The radishes are really good. Beans are excellent. You know, all kinds of beans. Mix it up. You don't have to be Latino every day. You don't have to eat refried beans every day. You can make black beans and navy beans and kidney beans. Kidney beans are really good. Oh my God. Lentils are good, but not beans. They're a little different. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I
They're
don't
not
know.
legumes?
They're
Aren't they
legumes.
legumes?
But are they
Okay.
beans? I don't think they're beans. They're legumes. Peas are legumes also, but they're not beans. No. What did you say, Mama? Said?
I had heard that we also were getting it because of like drinking water from like plastic water bottles.
How
And then-
interesting.
Hmm.
But I've been drinking water out of plastic bottles forever, and
Oh.
my generation doesn't have that problem.
Okay.
So I don't know that would not be my primary hypothesis.
So you think
What's a
it's more
hypothesis in science? It's a statement that can be proven to be true or not true. Right? Theory is something that's been proven and backed up by a bunch of data. People use theory wrong every day. I have a theory about who the Golden Bachelor is going to pick. No, you don't. You have a guess. That is not theory. That is hypothetical. Okay? I'm glad you recorded that. So, because people don't know that. Okay. So, here's another story. A person I used to live with liked cereal. and I'll tell you more stories about her later, but, she was pouring cereal into her little bowl, and she said, "Why are they all broken up?" I'm like, uh-oh. I said, "You have a roach in your cereal." She said, "No, I don't." I said, "I bet you do." So I pulled out the little bag from the inside, and I shook it up, and sure enough, there was a big old gigantic roach in there. And she just like lost it.
I would lose it too.
Ugh, yeah.
Okay, so even I would have thrown that cereal away. Are you with me? Yeah, but, so I don't know. She always, after that, she always like used all these little clippy things on her cereal so nothing would get in it. So that's a smart idea. So now we're talking about biological vectors. Biological vectors are those things that actually take a blood meal. So when they take a blood meal, a lot of times they use an anticoagulant. An anticoagulant would be something that doesn't allow the blood to clot. And they use that so that when they're taking a blood meal, the blood's not going to clot in their proboscis, which would be a bad thing, right? So here's a mosquito taking a blood meal. By the way, this mosquito is Aedes. It is the most aggressive mosquito we have in Texas. This is the one that'll come at you, and you're swatting at it, trying to kill it, and it's going to rain. Well, that's the male, and it's just a decoy.
Yeah.
The female
Is the one that.
is landing on you and taking a blood meal while you're trying to fight the male.
Because it's only the female that bites, correct?
The female is the only one that bites.
Yeah.
What's that one called? That was
Aedes.
sounds like Hades.
Not Hades, Aedes.
Like the 80s?
A-E-D-E-S. Yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about the skeeters, because I think it's important for you all to know what you're dealing with, right? There are 3 different genera of mosquitoes that we have to deal with in Texas. This one, I've already talked about, this is Aedes, and that's how you spell it, Miss Marie. And it's kind of middle in size when you talk about mosquito morphology. But the giveaway is that on its legs, it's got these little white stripes. And this is a very aggressive mosquito. It can transmit things like dengue fever and chikungunya. Now, that's a fun word to say, chikungunya. Right? Not chicken, chikungunya. Different. No, not chicken bouillon. It's not chicken bouillon. It's chikungunya. Are you with me? So, these things are problematic, right? And so, this is how you spell chikungunya. Do you see the word chicken in there anywhere, Miss Brito? Yeah, Miss Brito's just making up signs as we go. She's just having fun with it. This is Anopheles. Anopheles is a big, rotund mosquito, right? And it's the one that carries malaria.
Malaria.
The second one.
Uh-huh. And then this guy right here is Culex. It's a little tiny dude, right? And it actually carries West Nile. Okay. So to me, that's the more important. Is dengue fever a problem in Texas? Not really. But it is a problem in Mexico, Central America, and South America. But there are dengue fever is known as bone break fever, because the pain you get with it sometimes can be so devastating, right? And it's problematic. We're going to talk about it later when we talk about the infections, okay? But it's really an important thing. And so it's this one to me is the more dangerous one, because it's the one that carries West Nile. And we have cases this time of year, although it hasn't rained much. If it was raining, we'd have mosquitoes out the wazoo. My wife came in one day with 4 different bites of mosquitoes, and I go, how are there mosquitoes in our backyard? There's no water. And I walked back there to find out, and what I found out was she was putting capturing rainwater in a bucket, and then like using that water to water her plants, which is a good idea. The problem is what?
Mosquitoes.
It's mosquito plant. So we had to put a mosquito dunk in it, right? What's a mosquito dunk?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Like
Ms. Brito? Huh?
Waterboarding.
No! It's a little bitty thing that if you put it in, it dissolves in water, and it has Bacillus thuringiensis Anybody ever heard of that? Y'all know, y'all don't get out much.
Do you buy it at, Home Depot?
Yes. Or Walmart. Bacillus thuringiensis and Bacillus cereus, two different organisms, have been merged together because they're genetically similar. So they put them together. So you can talk about Bacillus thuringiensis or Bacillus cereus, the same one. We call it Bacillus cereus here, and you'll see it soon. But Bacillus thuringiensis is sold at Walmart, Home Depot. I think even H-E-B carries it now. It's sold as BT. And if you've not ever heard of BT, it's really great to protect your tomato plants. You can spray it on the tomato plants. When the munchers come, the caterpillars, and they eat, the organism produces a crystal that's not digestible. We call it a toxin, but it's kind of this crystal-like thing. And so when the munchers, the caterpillars eat it, it clogs up their intestinal tract and they die. But it won't affect any other organisms. It can affect mosquitoes because the darters are munchers also, just aquatic munchers. And so they'll eat the BT and it'll clog them up and you won't have a mosquito problem. They sell them as either little capsules or little powder, or in the dunk, which is a more prime cost, right? They charge a lot more. And they come in like a little donut, and you put the little donut, like I have water baths around my property for the deer mostly, although the birds use it too. I don't want the deer to go thirsty, so I will put a dunk in there and then I won't have mosquitoes.
But it doesn't affect.
That's the deal.
Any other animal.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Yep.
Why do mosquitoes love water?
Because the larval form are aquatic. Here's another way you can deal with mosquitoes that's cheaper, right? What do we know about soap? It's amphithetic. So if you have a bird bath that is having a lot of mosquitoes in it, take a couple of drops of soap, mix it in with the water in the bird bath, and when the mosquitoes land to lay their eggs, they fall down and they drown. Right, because usually it's the water tension that they land on, and because they can spread out their legs far enough, they don't weigh enough to actually fall into the water. But if you change the surface tension with just a little bit of soap, they'll fall right through and they'll drown, and it doesn't affect any other animal.
Like dish soap? Okay.
Don't be using,
Baby
you know,
soap.
don't be using the Beverly Hillbillies Granny Lye soap. Don't be using that, but just regular Dawn, like dishwashing soap. Or the H-E-B one is really good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I like the H-E-B brand. It's really good, and it's a lot cheaper.
I love ATV.
I do love H-E-B. I know all the tricks about H-E-B.
That's where you need words.
I know I don't
When
work
you
there,
retire.
but I probably would if I could. Did you have a question?
Yes, do you recommend BT spray over neem oil for plants?
I am so the oil I think works for aphids mostly, and you could just use soap there. It's cheaper. So take about a 1% solution of soap and spray it on the plants. When the aphids get on it, they can't hold on because of the soap, and they just slide down, and then they end up on the ground, and then they don't do any damage to your. But if you have ladybugs, don't kill the aphids because that's what the ladybugs eat. I found one in my car the other day. I'm like, oh my god! I had to like put it in a little box and take it home, and then let it go and outside because I like ladybugs. They're really beneficial organisms.
What about the red ones? No, not the red ones, the black ones.
The green and black ones, they're the cucumber ones. They bite.
Mm-hmm.
They hurt, but they don't like give you anything. They just bite. They're like, see what you taste like. Ah! And, you know,
And then you kill it.
you try not to because you know they're mostly going to eat aphids, but they're going to bite you too. The ladybugs don't bite. Okay. Anybody have any questions about the skeeters? As we call them in Texas, they're skeeters. Yeah.
Have you seen those, like, after the bite, they have that suction thing? Yeah, but see, people sell anything.
Well, I hope you don't buy it, right?
No.
Yeah.
But it's
My
suction.
cousin from Corpus sent me a text the other day and said there was this thing that helps with memory, and she said, and they had a sale on it. It was like $500 for a bottle, and they had 2 of them for $250. She said, "Do you think I should buy this?" I said, "No way. Save your money. This is a scam." And I don't know why she couldn't just Google it, and it says right there it's a scam. But yeah, it's just there are people selling all kinds of crazy things. Right? If it sounds too good to be true, it is.
Well, because it makes it seem like it sucks out like any,
It doesn't.
and then it makes the welts go away
It
for
doesn't.
kids.
No, it doesn't. Yep. Marisa.
Oh, all these mosquitoes are found in Texas,
Mhm.
but are there like certain bodies of water or certain places that they're?
And they'll be found in all bodies of water,
Okay.
except probably not a swimming pool because it's chlorinated and it won't. And the other thing about a swimming pool is there's so much water that it's going to be really hard for the darters to find food. So it's going to be in, like, you're not going to find them in a lake, but you'll find them in the ponds around the lake.
Okay, and they're being tested constantly for these viruses like West Nile and malaria.
The answer should be yes, but the real answer is
Probably not.
Georgetown has the best monitoring system for West Nile of anybody I know. There's a guy out there who is in charge and he runs his own program, and they always pick up West Nile before anybody else because they have a really good monitoring program. But you never hear about monitoring programs in Austin. I wonder why. But in Georgetown, you hear it all the time. They find it very good. Anybody have any questions about parasitology?
This is the best lecture. I like this one better than 1 and 2.
You're into mosquitoes.
I'm into all this. The parasites is so much
Oh,
fun.
wait till you see the viruses, girl. It's coming. Wait till you see the
Oh,
virus.
Roby, did you see that article how they're saying that people who live next to golf courses are getting Parkinson's?
No.
Yeah, because of the parasites in golf courses. They just came out with
What
this
parasites on a golf course?
Look it up. It's
Okay.
been like
How
a
about-
big thing going on.
What about people that go to school by